One.
8th of March happens to be the International Women's Day, though personally I have some reservation for calling this Women's Day. Anyway, it is acknowledged universally. And both of you have demonstrated considerable success in your respective profession and vocation. And I personally believe that this kind of vocational attainment or professional success is of immense value if you really think about women empowerment. So I would start with Rajrupa in the sense because she is exhibiting a kind of woman entrepreneurship, which again, as a lot of feminists or women emancipators, they personally believe is one of the big shots that women should try in order to liberate themselves from the clutches of economic dependence. So I just ask Rajrupa, how do you feel being a woman entrepreneur? Or how do you feel that when people really ask about women empowerment and then associated with entrepreneurship, how do you feel about it?
Okay, in this context, I would like to say this, that entrepreneurship does feel good because you're not serving anybody. You're pursuing your dreams and you're sort of trying to give shape to what you had conceptualized or visualized. And I have very able supporters, and they are fortunately men, and who respect the position of women in society. But in my mind, I would like to clarify one small thing, that financial independence is not essential for the emancipation of women, in my mind.
Okay.
My mother never worked. My grandmother never worked. But we as children never grew up to know that she was not contributing towards the income of the family, because she was a major financial decision maker in the family, and the respect with which my dad treated my mother or my uncle treats my aunt, this is something that has been ingrained in my being. So for me, financial independence is good. If you can have it, you have spending power, but essential is to be able to give respect to a woman and to make her believe that she is meaningful, she has a nurturing role, and she is a person who is basically the other word of creation. Because she has the ability to procreate, not just in one sense, not just in the physical sense, but in the sense of being able to create a home, a family, nurture children, create a place where she can, tackle complex problems, juggle multifarious roles. She can take up a profession if she wants to. If she chooses to be a homemaker, she's equally respectable, in my opinion. It does not have to be that she has to have a profession in order to establish her place in society. That's my thought. And primarily, if a man does not, give her that requisite respect and understanding and says that she's just ghar ki murgi dal barabar, doesn't have a contribution to make because she's not getting the funds in, then that is very sad. But fortunately, I've grown up in a home where even if the woman was not earning, she was not considered in any way less, and she was a major decision maker in the family. That's the kind of nurturing that I've been given. I'm grateful to my father, to my grandfather, and through the entire lineage, even though we come from a conservative family, basically.
And you come from an illustrious family too, which many doesn't know me, actually.
So in that context, where one would expect the reverse, I have seen the kind of respect with which the women in my family have been treated. And when a man treats his woman as a queen, the queen breeds princes and princesses. That's what happens.
That's a really
so that's
point.
essential. So I feel good about being an entrepreneur, even though it's at its nascent stages now, Sigma Central Excellence. And the idea with which we started, if I may say that, the idea with which we started was basically we found out, because I have been into teaching communication skills, facilitating communication skills for most of my life before I ventured into a corporate career. Post that, I changed the sides of the table. Once I was at this side of the table training people to prepare themselves for the job situations in life. Then I was at the other side of the table assessing them for those same opportunities. So I've seen where the shoe pinches, right? So, and then, like in my corporate career also, one of my major portfolios was training and development. So that's something that I I had a lot of passion for. And so Cygnus happened to me towards the fag end of my corporate job per se, when I was already planning that I wanted to move on. So Cygnus happened to me with some three wonderful people. Essentially, the gentleman who was funding it is also a relative, but he is phenomenal. He's a venture capital person, but he's come up with this concept. And the idea was that we wanted to look into the needs for career counseling for people who, a lot of students, young executives, or anybody for that matter, who wants to be this kind of global citizen, but does not have the requisite counseling or the requisite inputs available to make them so. to make their trajectory smoother. So we wanted to step in there and fill that gap and build bridges of meaning.
And by doing so, you are actually empowering people in the
Yes,
society.
yes,
And now
yes.
I'll come to you, madam, because you have been such a long cherished teacher. And because you have been dealing with young minds, budding minds, you have been dealing with people in the formative years of their lives, do you personally think that it is really essential to make women understand, particularly when they are pretty young, that well, you are subject to discrimination, and how to really interact with them so that they can come out? You see, there are so many people who are bogged down by kind of a preconceived notion, gender disparity, gender discrimination. So as a teacher, how do you feel that we really should send a message to the community that such things should be avoided and such things should not happen? And what kind of psychosocial attitude would you like to have from your children, from your students, from society itself? How do you think it as a teacher's perspective? How do you think it as from a vocational perspective?
Good afternoon. There's a lot of questions you have put forward to me. As a teacher, I have seen a lot of changes, and yes, there is biasness. Yes, I have felt. How? School, I went to a school, Assembly of God School, which is a co-ed school. In my time, when my daddy, who was the Assistant General Manager of Bank of India, he sent me to Assembly of God School, and in my neighborhood, I was the first girl to go into a co-education English medium school, and his friends and the neighbors said something really wrong with my dad. Sending a girl child wearing a skirt and going to Assembly of God School during my time. So I faced it, but I told my daddy why they are speaking like this. Daddy said, don't you worry, they will keep on speaking, you do whatever I say.
That's so important.
And I have two brothers, we were twins, I've lost one of them. So my daddy never ever discriminated me and my brothers. So I never learned that discrimination in the house at all. I grew up, and then my daddy got posted to New York, USA. Over there, once I landed, I saw two different cultures in my life when I was only 12 years old. One Indian culture where they like to put the women back in their back seat. As in the US, the women are doing everything, they're in front, they're doing jobs and everything. So I saw both the cultures. I grew up there, and then my daddy's tenure got over in New York and we had to return to India. The first thing, I had to get admission to a college. I got into Lady Brahman College. But honestly speaking, I was not liking the environment at all. It took me 1 year to understand that I'm surrounded with girls, there were no boys. So I felt kind of, no, I think I'm not liking it. I told my daddy. Daddy said, the years will pass. You go to MSc, because I was doing BSc there, you go to MSc, then you will find a lot of boys there, as well as a co-ed culture where you can relate to yourself. Because why I feel little difference in Lady Brahman, because the typical girls, people will say, but these girls, with their hard work, they got into Lady Brahman, and there were only 12 seats for zoology honors. There were 15 and 3 of them left for medical, and we 12 left over. And only thing there was to talk about, if I cannot get into masters, then I will be put into marriage. So that was the thing. And then I said, I don't think so, my daddy will put. He will say, first you get a job, then I'll think it over. So these things were always there when I grew up. And then I had my passion for teaching. As well as I wanted to complete my PhD. So I got into masters in presidency. Then I got myself married. And then I went to University of Glasgow, UK. There, along with my husband and my little daughter, with 1.5 years old, I took her. She was very happy, even we were also very happy, but we didn't have much funding to complete my PhD. I could complete my Master of Research, and my paper got published in Royal Society. There I faced kind of a different situation. You can say that being an Indian background, they were all good, all professors were very helpful and all, but I wanted my paper to be published. And then, as I want my paper to be published, I had to go through a vigorous training. I had rejection of 4 times. On the 3rd time, I told my husband that I can't do it. I'm a total failure. So my husband said, no, you have to get up, stop crying like a baby, get up and start doing the work. So that was a different kind of situation I faced when I had to write my thesis paper. But I wrote it and my paper got accepted in Royal Society. So over these years, I had gone through many things. I've seen many changes. Girls, they have to fight back. And you need a man to support. First was my daddy, second was my husband. They both supported me from the day one. Still, I lost my daddy. My husband is supporting me to what I am today. So I think man and woman work together. Biasness should not be there that much. If you're lucky enough to have a father and husband like me, I think you can rule the world.
So I take one cue from you. I remember during our undergraduate days, we used to have a novel called Pride and Prejudice, a very popular novel by Jane Austen. And Austen over there, when she was featuring the 18th century backdrop of English social life, she was projecting that marriage and money are interrelated, and marriage is perhaps the most convincing way for society to attain stability. But then, herself being way ahead of our generation, she projected a character like Elizabeth Bennet, who very much like you decided, no, even if I get someone to get married, I would actually ensure that I have that ability in me where I can take my own decisions and then enter into the world of marriage. And yes, as you mentioned, you need a man to support you. That novel shows someone called Fitzwilliam Darcy who supports Elizabeth in that way. So it's really nice. Yes, the things are continuing, but again I have a question. You see, the problem is even today we feel that the concept of gender bias is not just among the less educated people. We have a feeling that these people are educated, they are not grown up, they are not exposed to the decent faculties of living. But my experience, because a little bit of experience that I have of exposure towards the refined societies, if I might call them refined society, even there, unfortunately, I have seen a lot of gender disparity takes place. I'll go to Rajrupa, again I'll come back to you. Why do you think it happens? And how come education, which we consider to be one of the panacea for treating social maladies, even with education and with a lot of professional attainments, even members from the sophistry of the society are not being able to come out of it?
Well, this is a question that will plague us, I don't know for how many years to come. But then, I would like to say a few things, just in this context, it sparked off a few thoughts in my mind. That, if you ask me, in today's world, the essential reason why man could predominate, so as to speak, was because of his sheer physical strength. Because man is biologically stronger than a woman. That cannot be denied, right?
Mentally very weak.
Yes.
I'm just coming to that.
Myself a biology teacher, so I know.
I'm
Yes,
just coming to that.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
see, I just mentioned that in the previous thing also, because a woman, she's called, like you're sort of denigrated as an emotional fool, and her so-called complexities and her crookedness and stuff but actually, it's a woman's EQ that helps her to be able to, take care of complex matters, the kind of complexities that a man is not being able to. That is not to make a man lesser. It's actually a complementary role. It's a complementary
That's
role.
how
See,
the
because
Creator has created us.
one has a stronger body and the other has a stronger mind and a stronger
That's how the
emotional
combination
That's
works.
how the combination is supposed to be, and they're supposed to complement each other, right? But now you're asking why this discrimination? This discrimination is still there because of the kind of feed that has gone in over generations, over years, and rightfully said that it is not restricted to the lower classes. In fact, we find a strange instance of actual liberation and respect in a lot of simple families, whereas so-called garb of sophistication hides the subterfuge of a lot of discrimination. And I would like to, sort of here, beg to just state one more thing, that even in the Western societies, which are so-called liberated, the kind of gender violence, the kind of abuse, the kind of discrimination that still perpetrates is amazing. It's unbelievable. All right. And if you're talking about, a woman needs a man to support her, I would like to just put it in a different way. It's a question of a woman also needs to be able to view herself differently.
Oh, that's true.
This is the poster that I created for Sickness today. I think we need to start viewing ourselves differently, recognize our potential, realize that we're not the weaker sex per se. Physical strength no longer matters unless you're climbing the Siachen Glacier, because even wars are no longer physical combats. You're just pressing a switch and you're fighting from a remote location. So physical strength has ceased to occupy the position of importance even in laborious tasks, because a lot of it, because of the advancement of technology. So exponentially, as technology advances, the lesser the dependence on physical strength, so the more emphasis on woman, because a woman's ability to take care of a complex situation in the world that is gradually evolving is important. And a man who recognizes that strength and ability and gives her the requisite cognizance is a man who is able to also prosper himself, because he is using the requisite complement that is necessary to make the world a better place.
Sure.
Yeah.
One thing I'll take a cue from you, and I'll come back to the event theme, challenge to change. I'll come to you, madam.
Right.
I remember reading one of the articles by Simon de Beauvoir, a very noted analyst on gender discrimination, and it's a very globally reputed article which is called The Second Sex.
Okay.
And there she deliberately uses the term second sex.
Second.
Yes. And I think the time has come when we need to challenge this concept of second
Absolutely.
sex. So, madam, challenge to change. Do you
Yes.
really think that this second sex should really continue, or there should not be any first, and second, it should be an egalitarian concept? Do you really need to change, isn't it? That's I'll come to you, madam.
Yes, it should not be first or second. No, we are all equal. So I don't want to get into the concept that you are saying is going beyond my imagination, and having second and first and thing, because God has created man and woman must be a reason for that, and we cannot live without each other. And if I say the mother is more prone to the son and the father is more prone to the daughter, it must be the Oedipus complex that we already
The
know.
Freudian psychology,
Freudian
in that sense of the term.
yes.
Freudian
So
psychology.
if I want to bring little bit here changes, I know you are going beyond, but I am a simple teacher, and we also have
Not
to.
very simple, ma'am. I must beg to differ here. I've seen your qualifications.
Yes,
So
you see, the simple things in life are the most complicated.
yes. So
Okay.
here
So please, madam.
So I want to add little bit here, like we teach how we are struggling right today. So I want to add a few things here. That you have given my introduction, that I am the academic head of CAIE of St. Augustine's Day School. I have seen a mayhem of changes happening in the line of teaching over the last 21 years. To be very honest with you all of you, it is very prestigious, hardworking and a fun job. Hardworking because we teachers are the ones who mold a child into being Obama or Osama. And fun because I get to see the expressions of the children as I tell this to them. It sure inspires some and scares some too. Over the years, I have seen teaching get modernized to a great extent. The simple chalkboard changed to a smart board, and as the pandemic hit, it became the mobile phone we teachers all resorted at a time. The chalk has now become an old man sitting in a wheelchair watching the stylus take over, and now the swipe of a finger. As the whole classroom has shifted to a 6-inch screen, it feels overwhelming at times. It is tough for us teachers too. The noise of the children being excited, shocked by the increased syllabus, or even happy as they get a period off is a dream come true. Now we only get to hear static and load of messages saying network issues. The hubbub of the school corridors have shunned down to the teachers looking at old posters. To be true, I do miss the noise, the chaos, the whole vibe of the school. I miss the stolen glances of the students who are desperately trying to look at one another's answer sheet. I remember the tiny escape laughs of the faces of the teachers as they saw the student being confused as to what was happening. I miss being in the front of the classroom, holding in my hand and teaching with my heart out as I saw the eager eyes of the students waiting to learn. Over the years, I have taught many students as well as learned so much from them too. the respect and the love towards one another is beyond imagination. To end my speech on a biological note, the student-teacher relationship is known as mutualism. One can stand or cannot live without each other.
100%.
Certainly one cannot stand or live without each other. The society also doesn't want it to happen. None of us wants it to happen. But madam, again I have a question for you, if I am not bothering you too much. A very simple, on a very simple note, leave us some counsels that even with all our accomplishments, psychological, academic, vocational, whatever you say, it's still a long way to go. The topic that we are really trying to discuss, even I personally believe, unfortunately I'm on the other side, on the side where people will be blaming me that this is happening because of this. But the thing is this, even I personally believe that it is perhaps a long way to go. But it is moving. It is progressing towards maybe, I don't know how many years, but we expect that we would be attaining that stage. A few words of wisdom from you. How would you really try to advise younger generation, women much junior to you in age, women who are growing up, who are just on a point of choosing their career, entering into the phase of life? How do you advise them so that they can really maintain their position in not only in the society but in the humdrum of their life? It is very important that domestically as well as in the professional world they should have the right to take a call. This I personally believe, that they should have a right to take a call. So words of wisdom from none else than a teacher, because a teacher only grooms someone from that formative years to the period where she can be in a position to choose a life for herself or themselves, what you say. So word of wisdom from you, madam.
Yes, when I educate one girl, I feel she's going to be responsible for two families. One her own, that is her husband's family, as well as her father's. So I feel that girls are much more emotionally attached to their parents than boys. I felt that way. And I've seen many occasions this has happened. One more thing I want to tell the girls, that be honest to yourself. And if you are honest to yourself and have a disciplined life, one very important thing is to be disciplined. If I am disciplined myself, then I can teach the discipline to the others. And apart from that, hard work. There is no substitute for hard work. And do not try to climb the ladder without taking each step at a time. Because there is nothing called shortcut. If you're thinking of shortcut, you will be lost in the world. And woman's character and the face is everything she carries throughout her life. Because once it is gone, it is very difficult in this so-called man's world to regain it where you should be.
Yes. Precious words of wisdom.
Yes.
And none else coming from a teacher. Only a teacher can come out with such wisdom. Definitely. I would come to you probably on the last phase of our discussion. I remember Mary Wollstonecraft in her very famous article, Vindication of the Rights of Woman. She made a very pertinent point. I feel pertinent, I don't know others. That it's not the question of overpowering men. If I'm talking about woman empowerment, it's not about that you're becoming more powerful than men.
It's not a duel that you're fighting.
You are to empower yourself.
Absolutely.
So how would you like to shed your light on it?
Yes. See, I have already mentioned that I think I'll be repeating myself because I think essentially...
why I'm asking you a question, a lot of, I would not blame anyone, but there are different forms of feminism that we're encountering now. One such form of feminism which we may call radical feminism in that sense, people like Kate Millett and all in their write-up sexual politics and all, they have raised this point and they are trying, there is a misunderstanding that I am becoming more powerful than my male counterpart. If I am trying to empower myself, that means I am becoming more powerful. That is why I have raised the point.
I think it's not a power struggle. It's not a duel that you're fighting with a man. He's not your opponent. He's your, sort of collaborator. He's your, you complement each other, right? You're moving together and you are creating a world which is going to be beautiful for your future generations to live in. So he's not your opponent, he's not your adversary. That's not the idea. In fact, the same applies to the man. The man also should realize that this is not the person who should be dominated in order to make her, pay obeisance to whatever I have to say. So that mutual, respect is important. And another thing I feel is that, essentially respecting the difference that has been ingrained into a man and a woman. I mean, they are not similar. Equality is not similarity. A lot of people, which is sometimes I feel a distortion of feminism, that when you are trying to equate similarity with equality, then the problem arises. And femininity is not frailty. You're not frail if you're feminine. If there's feminine grace, it does not make you frail. And in physical strength alone is not the deciding factor. The mental strength, the emotional quotient is important for you. And the other thing is the way you view yourself. As I said earlier also, you need to change the way you view yourself. And a lot of cases, I think we women, we denigrate ourselves to a position where we think we are not capable of doing certain things. We assign certain tasks as beyond our capacity. We have to realize that we have to challenge ourselves. So that's where we choose to challenge. We choose to challenge our own barriers. We choose to challenge our own limits. And we choose to go beyond what binds us. That's important. And one more important thing is that while we love others, while we spread love, while we nurture everybody else, we must learn to be, able to love ourselves, to respect ourselves and treat ourselves with dignity. We often fail to do that.
That's a very important point. Any last note on the issue, madam?
I have not much thing to say, but men and women are equal. I feel that way. And according to the health triangle, mental, social and physical all has to be equal to call a person healthy. So if I say that I am mentally fit but physically unfit and socially unfit, so I am unfit for the society. So that applies to both men and women. They all have to fit into the triangle to call themselves that I am totally fit for the society.
Thank you very much.
On a closing note, I would just like to say this,
Please.
I hope we come to a day where we won't have to reserve a day to celebrate with.
I sincerely hope.
Not that I have anything against celebrating women. Good for us to have an opportunity to feel special. But I hope we don't need a day to remind ourselves and others that we are special.
If we can really come to that situation, I think it will vindicate the cause for which we are celebrating this day.
Yes.
It has really been a nice interaction. It has been a lively interaction.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Definitely, I think a lot of people who will be listening to it would be enriched with the kind of discourse that you have shared, with the ideas that you have shared. It will definitely be inspirational. I hope they'll also influence their ways of thinking. Madhumita Samanto and Rajushpa Chakraborty, LNE, and on behalf of LNE, we acknowledge your presence and we share our gratitude that you have shared your moment, and more importantly, you have shared your important views with us. Certainly, it has made our day.
Thank you for making our day special. It will remain etched as an important memory.
It's a kind of I would say a symbiotic relationship. As we have said, it's a kind of symbiosis on which the world needs to live.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.